Shut it all down. The voice wasn't loud, but it cut deeper than a gunshot. Within seconds, the Capitol changed. Lights blinked out, row by row, like falling dominoes. Security monitors went black. Microphones died mid-sentence. Live news feeds froze. Doors sealed with mechanical clicks, trapping everyone inside. The temperature seemed to drop. The silence wasn't just eerie, it was intentional. Somewhere in that darkness, a woman adjusted her blazer and smirked. And somewhere else, Denzel Washington stood completely still. He knew what was happening. This wasn't a blackout. It was a cover-up, a purge, and he was the last man left standing with the truth. The Capitol was wide awake the next morning, but something inside it had died. News anchors spoke of budget hearings and tax reform. Analysts debated foreign policy. No one mentioned the blackout. No one dared. Whatever happened last night was scrubbed clean by dawn, as if silence itself had a PR team. Denzel hadn't slept. The red badge was still in his coat pocket, radiating like a coal pressed to his ribs. It wasn't plastic like the others. It was metal, cold, sharp around the edges. A single label stamped in matte black. Internal emergency witness. No barcode. No signature. Just one thing added by hand. MACE. Scrawled in red ink, so raw it looked like blood that never dried. He stared at it under the dim hotel lamp for hours, waiting for it to make sense. It never did. He didn't ask to be involved. He wasn't writing a book or chasing fame. He was supposed to be done with all this. But someone had pulled him in like a ghost, dragging him through a closed door. And ghosts don't knock unless they're desperate. 8:52 a.m., U.S. Capitol Rotunda. The crowd inside the chamber buzzed like a hive. Press staffers, a few lobbyists, too smug to sit down, all of them drawn to the center stage, not for policy, but for the woman stepping up to the mic. Nancy Mace. Denzel spotted her from the gallery. She moved like she'd been rehearsing this moment in her sleep. Every step measured, every blink loaded. The light caught her perfectly, like a crown she didn't need to wear. He'd seen her before, on screens, on headlines, on magazine covers framed like saints. But this wasn't that Nancy. That one cried on TV and sold pain for votes. This one was weaponized, a blade in heels. She adjusted her mic. "Justice," she began, her voice smooth like ice poured over silver, "is not about emotion. Justice is a blade, cold, sharp, without mercy." She paused. Let it hang. The silence that followed wasn't discomfort. It was reverence. "And today," she said, eyes scanning the room, "I hold the blade." Applause erupted, but not from everyone. A few heads remained still, men in dark suits with colder eyes, women with legal pads and ink-stained fingers. They knew something, or at least, they suspected. Denzel watched her like a man watching a chessboard mid-match. She wasn't bluffing. She wasn't performing. This was something else entirely. She believed it, and that made her dangerous. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Unknown number. Message only. "Room 6B, maintenance wing. Noon. Bring the badge. Come alone." He glanced down at the card again. Still cold, still sharp, still Mace. Whatever this was, it wasn't a setup. It was a summons. 11:58 a.m. corridor beneath the maintenance wing. Fluorescent lights flickered like an old interrogation room. A janitor walked past without looking up. One of the security cameras was unplugged. On purpose. Denzel opened the door to room 6B. No chairs, no table. Just a locked cabinet, and on top, a plain brown folder. No seal, no tape, just dust. He opened it. A list of burner accounts registered to Congressional Wi-Fi. VPN logs. Copies of refund claims from Nancy Mace's office for a DC property, listed on VRBO under a different name. A receipt for audio equipment purchased with taxpayer funds. None of it on public record. Tucked at the back was a photo, blurry, grainy, night vision. It showed Nancy, alone, standing beneath the Capitol dome, holding what looked like a thumb drive, pressing it into a hidden wall panel. On the back of the photo, scrawled in the same red ink, "They let her in." But they didn't expect who she'd lock out. Denzel folded the photo, slid it into his jacket, and turned to leave. But as he opened the door, a voice behind him said, "You should have stayed retired, Mr. Washington." The room was still humming when Denzel stepped back into the Capitol's underbelly. A low mechanical hum, not from machines, but from something deeper, like the building itself was holding its breath. He didn't respond to the voice that warned him at the end of room 6B. He didn't turn around. Whoever said it knew he wouldn't. Warnings were for people who had choices. He had a red badge, a photo in his pocket, and a name burned into his palm like a brand. Mace. Now he had a folder full of crimes and no instructions. But he did have one name, on a post-it stuck to the inside flap, smudged like it was written in a hurry. R. Castell, the Meridian Chronicle Rain Castell, investigative journalist. Gone missing 3 weeks ago. Presumed dead, or worse, silenced. Denzel didn't trust easily, but if Castell had vanished chasing this trail, that meant he was close. Too close. That night, in a parking garage 6 stories below the Library of Congress, Denzel met an archivist named Eli. Pale, sunken eyes, fingers stained with toner, always chewing on peppermint toothpicks. "You said you wanted Castell's backups," Eli said, sliding a dusty Lenovo ThinkPad across the hood of a rusted government sedan. "Here it is. Just don't ask how I got it." Denzel took the laptop, popped it open. "Password screen." Eli leaned in. "Try Truthissant Dead 7. It unlocked. The desktop was clean. Too clean. Just one folder labeled "Do Not Open." Denzel clicked. Inside a corrupted video file. He double-clicked. The screen flickered. The sound cracked like old vinyl. Then it played. A dimly lit conference room. No timestamps, no logos. But the voice that came first was unmistakable. Nancy Mace. "We don't need to redact the files," she said calmly. "We just have to make people afraid to read them." 3 men sat across from her. Big, slow-moving, with the relaxed arrogance of men who've bought silence before. One stirred his whiskey. Another scrolled through a phone that never left airplane mode. The third leaned forward. "And if someone leaks it," Nancy smiled, "then we destroy the messenger, not the message." There was more. Talk of internal vote manipulation, targeted media narratives, even a reference to ghost accounts for influence ops. Burner profiles allegedly created inside congressional servers. But halfway through, the screen went black. A line of code popped up instead. Error 190-A. Secure channel detected. Clearance level X. Then, begin hash lock. It wasn't corrupted, it was locked. Encrypted with a hash signature used only in high-level government systems, specifically the Capitol Internal Security Network. In plain English, only someone inside could open it. Denzel stared at the blinking error. The file was real, and now it was useless. Unless he could find someone on the inside willing to break rank, or willing to disappear. He called in a favor. A risky one. The next day, in an unlisted safe house off DuPont Circle, Denzel met her. Her name was Jewel Vega, former cybersecurity analyst for the House Oversight Committee, fired after she accused her supervisor of falsifying evidence to protect a sitting member with presidential aspirations, blacklisted, monitored, unemployed. She didn't shake his hand. She simply asked, "How long until they find out you have it?" Denzel answered with silence. She nodded like that was the answer. He handed her the laptop. She opened a terminal window and started typing like a pianist on fire. Her fingers didn't pause even as she whispered, "Do you know what hash locking is?" He didn't reply. She kept going. "It's not encryption, it's exclusion. It doesn't protect information. It decides who's allowed to see reality. You're not locked out because it's dangerous. You're locked out because it's true." Lines of code filled the screen. A counter started ticking. A race. If she lost, the file would wipe itself. Then her hands froze. Shit! The countdown stopped at 004. The screen flickered. The file reappeared. Then it asked for one thing. Enter witness ID authorization. She looked at him. "This is you." Denzel pulled the red badge from his coat. Still cold. Still burning. She held up her phone, scanned the embedded RFID chip inside the card. The system pinged twice. This badge isn't registered, she whispered, but the system thinks it's real. Someone planted it, Denzel said. No, Jules corrected. Someone created it, and they want you in. She tapped the screen once. The video resumed. Nancy Mace turned to camera, like she was staring straight through the screen. History isn't written by the victors anymore, she said. It's written by whoever deletes fastest. Jules recoiled slightly. She knew this would get out. She didn't care, Denzel muttered, because she thinks no one can stop her. Jules leaned forward. Then we prove her wrong. The hearing chamber had been redesigned overnight. The witness seat, usually isolated, dignified, was now surrounded on. Denzel stood at the threshold, the badge in his hand burning hotter than ever. Jules told him not to go. They'll spin it, she warned. They won't fight the truth. They'll erase it, by erasing you. But silence was no longer an option. He stepped inside. The doors shut behind him with a soft but final hiss. Dozens of eyes turned, but only one gaze mattered. Nancy Mace, seated at the top of the oversight dais, hair flawless, suit military sharp, lips painted the color of old blood. She leaned into the mic with an effortless calm that came from knowing the camera was always watching her best side. I don't know how Mr. Washington acquired a classified witness badge, she said, her voice dipped in velvet and cyanide. But if he insists on being here, let him explain to the American people why he fabricated a conspiracy using a forged video, a stolen laptop, and, apparently, a great deal of imagination. Light laughter rippled through the chamber. A few polite claps, the kind you hear before an execution. Denzel didn't move. He stood alone in front of the panel, without legal counsel, without preparation, without fear. You don't want an explanation, he said quietly. You want a spectacle. Nancy's eyebrow rose. Then give us one. I didn't fake anything, Denzel said, louder now, turning to the full room. I didn't steal anything. I opened something. Something you've been trying to bury under mascara, hashtags, and a flag you pretend to salute. Gasps. Not many, but just enough. Nancy smiled again, a slow, rehearsed pull at the corner of her mouth. Mr. Washington is an actor, she said. A brilliant one, I admit. But this is not the Oscars. This is Congress. And here we deal in facts, not monologues. She gestured and a flat screen behind her lit up. Clips from his past films rolled silently. Him in military uniform, courtroom dramas, revolution speeches. Edited together like a hit reel for a late-night takedown. This is the man accusing your elected officials of treason, she continued. A man who made millions pretending to stand for justice. Denzel watched himself on the screen, then looked back at her. Pretending, he said? Maybe, but the difference is, I stopped acting. You haven't. A few heads turned. The silence grew thicker. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a printed frame from the encrypted video, the clearest one Jules could salvage before the file went cold. Nancy, the lobbyists, the whiskey glass, the line that couldn't be mistaken. We don't need to redact the files. We just have to make people afraid to read them. He placed it on the table in front of the panel. Nancy didn't look at it. She didn't have to. That's been doctored, one aide snapped. That's convenient, Denzel replied. Everything inconvenient must be fake, right? He scanned the room. Let me ask you something. If a man finds a dead body in a locked room and breaks a window to raise the alarm, do you arrest him for breaking and entering? Or do you ask how the body got there? A longer silence now. He walked up to the panel, closer than decorum allowed. His voice dropped to a level just above a whisper, the kind that makes 1,000 people hold their breath. I didn't come here to save my name. I came here because you forgot yours. He turned his eyes directly to Nancy. You used pain like a perfume, sprayed it on camera, let it linger just long enough to manipulate votes, then wiped it off before it stained your image. The color in her cheeks flinched. You cried for survivors while silencing the truth. You called for justice while dining with the very men who fund injustice. And you smiled. God, you smiled. Like it was all just branding. She opened her mouth, but for the first time, no words came out. Denzel stepped back. You wanted a show, he said. You've been starring in it the whole time. Security tensed. The room cracked with whispered questions. Nancy finally found her voice. Mr. Washington is not the subject of this inquiry, she said too quickly. But given his violation of multiple federal codes and unlawful possession of encrypted material, he cut her off, firm. Charge me then. Make me your villain. But just know, villains don't show receipts. He tapped the photo on the desk. I have more. And every time you try to bury one truth, 10 more will claw their way back. He turned, walking toward the exit. No applause, no protest, just the cold realization settling into the room like fog. Nancy stared down at the red badge left on the table. Still warm, still humming. This wasn't over. It had just been televised. The rain hadn't stopped for hours. Washington was drowning, not in water, but in carefully timed distractions. Cable networks flooded screens with images of war, celebrity gossip, economic fear. But on Channel 9, the nation tuned in for something different. Nancy Mace, bathed in soft studio lighting, sat on a velvet armchair, a leather Bible clutched in both hands like a life raft. Her voice trembled, just enough. Her mascara bled, just enough. And her timing, as always, was perfect. I was violated, she said, eyes glassy, voice warbling with restraint. They filmed me without consent, weaponized my body, my pain, for clicks, for agendas. I'm not standing here because I'm strong. I'm standing because I had no other choice. The host leaned in with solemn nods. Strings swelled underneath the monologue. Comments poured in by the thousands. Stay strong, Nancy. We believe you. You are the voice of the voiceless. Denzel muted the TV. He stood beside Jules, deep in the guts of an abandoned federal credit union, 2 blocks from the Potomac. The building had been closed since 2021. Boarded windows, graffiti-stained glass. But someone had left the vault behind, sealed and forgotten. Inside it was what everyone wanted to forget. They'd been tracking the hard drive for weeks. Not the copy, not the scrub version. The original, the one Castell was killed chasing, the one that couldn't be hash-locked, tampered, or excused. It was real. Raw, permanent. The vault was cold. Dust lay thick across everything, but on a pedestal beneath a rusted vent was a fireproof safe. Combination lock, no power, no keys. It's inside, Jules said. Her breath clouded in the stale air. But there's one problem. Denzel nodded. Let me guess, she changed the code. Not just changed it, Jules muttered. She made the code her. Every number ties back to her public life. Speeches, dates, tweet timestamps. She turned the safe into a shrine to herself. She pulled out a notepad. I've cracked 6 digits. The 7th? I don't know. Something personal. Denzel thought back. Nancy's first campaign, her father's rank, her public divorce, her fake viral apology. No, too surface level. Then he remembered the way she looked at him on the dais. Not angry, not scared, betrayed. Try 12/18, he said. Jewel raised an eyebrow. December 18th? The date I rejected her invitation to testify in private, the day she lost control of the narrative. Jules entered the digits. The safe clicked. The sound wasn't loud, but it dropped through the air like thunder under silk. She opened the door slowly, revealing an old lacy rugged drive. The orange casing was scorched, partially melted. Someone had tried to burn the truth and failed. Jules plugged it into her laptop, fingers dancing across the keyboard. The drive spun up with a mechanical whine. Lights blinked. We're in, she whispered. Hundreds of files appeared. Memos, audio, high-res footage. But one folder had no title, just a single underscore. She clicked. Inside one file, Nancy Mace Deer /PR stage victim.mp4. They stared. Play it, Denzel said, his voice a knot of disgust and disbelief. Jules hesitated, then tapped the spacebar. The screen lit up. Nancy stood alone in a dim studio, dressed in the same outfit she wore for the televised interview. A man off-screen gave directions like a commercial director. She adjusted her tears in the mirror, smudged her eyeliner slightly, then turned to camera and whispered, "Start at, I didn't choose to be strong, again?" The director nodded. She straightened her shoulders. "Rolling in 3, 2. Nancy took a deep breath, then broke, just like on air. Tears perfect. Voice cracked, script flawless. "I survived, not because I'm strong, but because I had no choice." The screen went black. Silence. Not just in the room, but in Denzel's blood. It stopped moving. He wasn't watching a woman lie. He was watching a nation get played. Jules spoke first. She rehearsed victimhood like it was a scene from a show. "No," Denzel said, voice low, like it was policy. He stood up, pacing. "She's not afraid of getting caught. She's counting on it, because she thinks the people will forgive her before they will believe me." Jules looked at the drive, then at him. "So what do we do?" He picked up the drive carefully, eyes dark as an executioner's blade. "We don't leak it. Not yet. We let her go further. We let her lie one more time, under oath." "You want her in front of Congress?" "No," Denzel said. "I want her cornered, with no script. Let's see how well she cries when the teleprompter dies." The chamber had never been this full. Today's session marks the second public appearance of actor-turned-whistleblower Denzel Washington versus sitting Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Following the leaked footage known only as stagevictim.mp4, the seal of the United States gleamed above the dais, and beneath it, Nancy Mace sat in silence, flanked by 2 government attorneys, her hair tighter than ever, hands locked together like a prayer in chains. She hadn't spoken publicly since the last broadcast. She didn't need to. Her lawyers had blanketed the media with words like deep fake, character assassination, foreign interference, but none of them had denied the footage was real. Now she would have to, because Denzel had returned, not alone, not empty-handed. He entered through the center aisle flanked by a team of international legal observers, forensic data experts, and a federal special counsel named Avery Monroe, whose reputation was forged in the ashes of the Panama Papers. This wasn't a guest appearance anymore. This was an operation. No podium this time. No badge. Just a single USB drive and a voice like a knife that didn't shake. He stepped forward, placed the drive on the table, and looked directly at the committee chair. "I have 3 questions," he said. "If Congresswoman Mace answers all 3 truthfully, this drive stays closed. If she lies, once, the people get to see what she's been hiding." A wave of murmurs pulsed across the room. Nancy's lead attorney objected, citing protocol, but the chair overruled. "The witness may choose to answer or remain silent." Denzel turned to her, calm, still, almost mournful. "First question," he said, eyes locked with hers. "Did you submit reimbursement forms for a D.C. residence while it was actively listed on short-term rental platforms for private profit?" Nancy blinked. Just once. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her lawyer whispered something. She didn't move. "Second," Denzel continued, unrelenting, "did you vote against the public release of the Epstein files while simultaneously receiving donations from legal funds connected to 2 named individuals in those files?" The room gasped. This time, audibly, phones buzzed. Journalists typed like thunder. Nancy's hands tightened until her knuckles faded white. "Third question," Denzel said, and now his voice changed, lower, heavier. "Did you collaborate with your former communications director to script, stage, and record a fabricated video interview in which you claimed to be the victim of a non-consensual recording?" Nancy inhaled, but it was a mistake. It betrayed her. Her lungs refused to answer what her mouth could not. Silence followed. Long, inescapable, crushing. Denzel didn't blink. "Congresswoman," he said, "the people are watching. This isn't your stage. It's your sentence." She remained frozen. "Final opportunity. Yes or no." She said nothing. Denzel reached for the remote. "So be it." He pressed the button. The lights dimmed. The screen behind the panel flickered to life. There she was. The same room. The same makeup. The same studio light that made her tears glow just enough. Off-screen, the voice of a media coach counting her in. Her reciting the line, stumbling, then asking, Can I cry after the second line? Or is that too soon? The clip ended. Then came the next one. Nancy in her office, laughing with her aides, holding the early edits of the interview, calling it campaign gold. The third clip, the rental listing with the same couch used in taxpayer-funded receipts. The fourth, donor ledgers with two names from the redacted Epstein documents, their signatures scrawled beside PAC contributions marked event coordination. The chamber erupted. Lawyers stood. Reporters yelled. The chair pounded the gavel. Nancy didn't move. Her armor had cracked, but she hadn't fallen. Not yet. She looked up, eyes wild, not with fear, but with fury. "This is a political ambush," she hissed. "This is not about truth. This is a vendetta." Denzel stepped closer, voice low enough only for her to hear. "You're right," he said. "But the truth? It doesn't care what this is. It's already out." He walked away. The screen froze on her face, mid-sentence, mid-denial. The moment America stopped watching a survivor and started seeing a strategist exposed. They say when a bridge collapses, it doesn't fall all at once. It cracks first, silently, in joints and rivets, in pressure points no one notices until the moment they give way. Nancy Mace was cracking, and this time, no stylist, no press release, no teary-eyed confession would save her. The hearing footage had gone viral in less than 6 minutes. Stage victim trended on every platform. Congress scrambled. PAC donors fled like rats from a sinking yacht. Her legal team issued a statement denying context. But context doesn't survive when the entire emails vanished from servers. Archived committee files were wiped mid-upload. Assistants were reassigned or sent home indefinitely. One staffer found the office shredders jammed with what looked like burner phone contracts and media consulting agreements that didn't lead to any known firm. It wasn't just panic, it was erasure. The illusion she'd crafted, flawless, calculated, cruel, was being consumed by her own hands. If she couldn't be trusted, she would become unknowable. That was the strategy, but it was already too late. Because somewhere in Quantico, the FBI's cybercrime division was already 4 layers deep into her digital skeleton. They weren't watching the headlines. They were cloning her hard drives. And Twitter? That had become a graveyard she couldn't silence. It started with one tweet. "I was the handler behind Justice Voter 12 and Mace Truth Network. I created fake threads to smear witnesses and defend her during hearings." Orders came straight from her office. At the account formerly known. An hour later came another. Phone. "I was paid to amplify her press clips and mass report any user mentioning Epstein. They made me pretend to be a survivor. I wasn't." It whistled. And then the big one. Phone. "I ran at Real Justice 24. Yes, that one. Yes, those tweets. Yes, I was told what to write. By Nancy Mace's chief of staff. Screenshots incoming." The floodgate ruptured. Anonymous accounts turned into named former staffers. Bot farms were traced to Congressional Wi-Fi networks. A whistleblower even leaked an internal memo titled, "Narrative Control Strategy. If she cries, they'll hesitate." She had weaponized pain, and now pain was turning on her. Meanwhile, across town, Denzel Washington sat quietly in a side hallway of the Justice Department. His name was trending too. Networks called him the man who turned the tide, America's reluctant crusader, the actor who broke the mask. An aide approached him with a small velvet box. "The White House wants to award you the Presidential Civilian Medal. Your testimony redefined public accountability." Denzel looked at the box. He didn't open it. "Tell them I appreciate it," he said, "but I don't want a medal for doing what should have been done years ago." The aide hesitated. "Then what should I tell them you want?" He stood, calm as stone. "I want justice," he said. "Not the polished kind, not the kind they print on pamphlets. I want the kind that kicks down doors. I want it to kneel before the truth. And then," he paused, his voice low, "I want it to fasten the cuffs it was too afraid to use before." Back at the Capitol, Nancy stood alone in the Speaker's office. She had gone there out of instinct, out of muscle memory. Political animals run toward power when they're wounded, like wolves crawling back to the den. She thought the Speaker would shield her. After all, they owed her. They'd let her rise because she was useful. But usefulness has an expiration date. The receptionist didn't offer her a chair. The door to the speaker's private chamber never opened. And when her name finally appeared in the internal system, it wasn't attached to a committee seat. It was attached to a federal case number. That night, she appeared on Fox News via satellite. No makeup, no lights. She looked tired, human, almost real, but not quite. "I've been hunted," she said. "I've been betrayed. The man America celebrates is an actor playing a role. And one day you'll see that." She tried to summon tears. They didn't come. Because rehearsed pain doesn't cry twice. The night was sharp. The kind of cold that slices through coats and memories alike. Washington stood still beneath floodlights that bathed the Capitol dome in a sterile white glow. It wasn't rain. It wasn't snow. It was that dry, biting air that only came when history was about to happen. Inside, the chamber was nearly empty. No press gallery, no thunder of questions, no staffers taking notes for someone else's quote. Just silence. That kind of silence that only belongs to endings. Nancy Mace entered alone. No entourage, no cameras. No entourage waving press kits like shields. Only her heels tapping down the aisle like a slow death march. Her blazer was wrinkled. Her badge was gone. Her face was stripped of contour, of color, of control. At the end of the chamber stood two figures. One more black, federal, tactical. Cold steel at his hip and an expression forged from 100 arrests. The other stood in shadow, leaning against the marble pillar, like a question no one could answer. Denzel Washington. He didn't move. Not at first. He just watched her, arms crossed, eyes unwavering. Not angry, not victorious, just final. Nancy stopped in front of them. The air between her and Denzel buzzed with memory. So many hearings, so many words. She looked up at him, not pleading, not defensive, just hollow. "I'm not a monster," she whispered, voice dry, almost brittle. "I was trying to survive." He stared. Let it sit. Let her believe that silence was mercy. Then he stepped forward, slow and deliberate, until their shadows nearly touched. "No,"